So I had a chance to go to the Philharmonic Pops concert last night, and they were doing the music of the Knights. Not Knight, N, starting with N, but KN, not the Knights of Columbus either, but the Knights that are Paul McCartney. These are Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Elton John, and Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. And admittedly, I didn't know all the songs. I have a feeling our younger kids would know a few of the songs, but one that I got the backstory to I thought was interesting, and it was called Silly Love Songs by Paul McCartney and the Wings. I'm seeing some of the older generation nod their heads. And so Paul McCartney, for you young crew, he was part of a fairly substantial band back in the 60s. You guys, anybody have an idea who that is? Go for it. The Beatles, okay, so they're still alive, huh? Yes, they were a pretty big deal. And so Paul McCartney was one of the 4 band members. He went off and made the Wings, right? The band Wings. So this song, apparently he was getting kind of harassed by Ringo and John Lennon. I don't know if it was serious or joking, but that he was writing too many love songs. And so he actually wrote a song in response to that called Silly Love Songs. And it, you know, the refrain is, I love you. I can't quite hit the I don't know it well enough. But anyway, Silly Love Songs. And so he sang this love song. And it's interesting because the beginning of it says, you know, some people say there's too many love songs, but I know that there aren't, kind of thing. And so he keeps singing these love songs in defiance. But as great as that love song may have been, or, you know, I was with the confirmation kids last week. We were doing some theology of the body and talking about true love and marriage and vocation. And so we were naming love songs. So they brought up sung by Taylor Swift. I'm sure maybe some of those would be ones these guys could help us identify. Ed Sheeran, is it? And John Mayer, you know, these guys. So we try to look at the lyrics and say, what kind of love are they talking about? And one of the key things that we got to remember, which this is really bringing us back to, even on a human level, that these lyrics typically are presenting, and what I was trying to show the confirmation kids, a love that is not what we talk about as Christians and Catholics, right? That the truest, deepest love that we know and can experience and express is what the Greeks use the word agape, sacrificial love, the love of the cross, the love that says, I put your good before mine. And the beauty of a Catholic school and the Catholic formation that we seek to give in our parish and in our diocese and our church is that that's the love ultimately rooted in God. And that we could talk about who the source of it. We could talk about who the ultimate expression of that sacrificial love that we're called to, that the world has ever seen, was on that cross 2,000 years ago when the Son of God gave his life for us. And so even, you know, the emotional love, the romantic love that a lot of these songs talk about, even in marriage we say, but that's not the deepest expression. It's great to have that. It's great to let that lead us to a marriage and to a person that God calls me to give my life away to. But then I got to go beyond that. It's a love of commitment, of choice, of saying, I give the rest of my life to you. I give all that I am to you, for those who are called to marriage. And for those who might be called to, you know, a dedicated single life, I give my life to whatever that mission is that my part is. In caring for my elderly parents, or teaching, you know, and giving my life to teaching, or whatever other, you know, vocation or occupations I'm called to. And certainly in the religious life, in the priesthood, I give my life to you, God, through the church in a unique way. So it's a choice. It's not just a romantic feeling that comes and goes. So that's the first element we got to understand when it talks about it. And I failed to get to my point about the love songs, that the greatest love song the world has ever seen or heard is the second reading today, right? Many of our couples choose this reading for their weddings, this great kind of ballad to love that St. Paul gives us. Love is patient, love is kind. And that ultimate last line that he says, love never fails. Now, the challenge is we want to try to live that in our human life, and certainly in family life and married life and the different ways we express it. The challenge is that human love does fail. And that's the sad reality. That's the truth. That's our brokenness. That's our sin. So the love that ultimately, that Paul is talking about, and this love that these love songs are scratching the surface of, is ultimately talking about a divine love, not just a human love. And so again, we at a Catholic school and we at this church in our faith life can express that. We can say that it's not just a human love that we celebrate in humanity. We don't just celebrate ourselves and look at what we're able to do in our own love, because it fails, it falls short, it's not perfect. We celebrate the divine love that never fails, that is perfect, that is everlasting. Even though we struggle to see that at times, we know who the source of that love is, and we can celebrate that at our Catholic schools and certainly in our parishes, in our families. And that's what we say. That's the love song of St. Paul in that second reading. In the gospel, we see another moment of love failing. The very natives of Nazareth, where Jesus grew up, reject him. They can't handle this new mission and his identity, somewhat understandably so. But we see that God works through that, and Jesus is able to persevere and prevail. I want to bring up an example that we experienced as a parish just this past couple weeks, because I really feel like it's the way that we can show that and live out that redemptive love that God calls us to, that love of second chances, even when love fails and people are broken, but that constant call that God has to redeem us, to give us new life, that he never gives up on us, no matter what we've been through. And it's a man that we had a funeral for this weekend who came to our parish about 3 years ago. He was from the East Coast, and slowly, as I got to know him, I got to hear his story about the challenges that he had grown up through. A horrible family life, which unfortunately led him to go to drugs and alcohol and getting involved in illegal things. And he was so immersed in that and so enslaved by it that he couldn't break free. And his family, after years of trying to help him, after years of getting money stolen from them, the lies, the struggles, the relapses, and all that, they finally said, we have to cut you off. That tough love that said, as he failed to live that love because he hadn't been shown that love, unfortunately, not to justify it, but they kind of came to a point of saying, we can't keep doing this. So eventually he made his way to Erie, PA, and he found a friend at AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, who brought him. He had grown up Catholic, but hadn't received all his sacraments, and brought him to another parish in town. Eventually they made their way here. Thank God we were able to provide a welcoming place where he got connected. He was able to be confirmed, be fully initiated in our community. He started getting connected through the ushers and the Knights of Columbus, as well as the RCIA program. And he really found a family here that he had lost for decades because of his brokenness, because of his enslavement, because of the love that had failed him in so many ways, and the ways he had failed to love in his brokenness and his sin. And so even as he continued to deal with many psychological and physical issues, had a lot of ups and downs in these last 3 years, and sadly, eventually passed away last week. He was able to come here for us to offer the Mass for him, for his funeral, to commend him to God. And I was able to work with him, and amidst all these challenges that he had been through and he was still going through, that he continued to cling to his faith in God, his hope in Jesus Christ and his resurrection, even as life kept dealing him these awful blows, and continued to deal him those blows. And he was an inspiration to me. But it was a beautiful moment of our parish and school family, of being church, being that synodal church that Pope Francis is encouraging us to talk about, that we want to pray about. Those meetings start here this week at OLP. But living that out to be a welcoming community where people find refuge, they find connection, they find love, they find grace, they find new beginnings, no matter what their past. And in that, they're able to find peace and faith, hope, and love. A love that never fails. That not because we're not failing in our love, but because God is loving through us in the ways he keeps coming to others, through the church, through the ways that he wants to love others through, other human beings. And so that's the challenge we have, to develop an environment here at our parish as well as our school where we strive for that love, even though we fall short at times, to live that love of the second reading of St. Paul today, that great love song of St. Paul, that we try to live that love that never fails, but that we also point to the one who we know, even when our love does fail, is the source of eternal love and eternal forgiveness, eternal patience and kindness, and all those great things that we hear in the litany of the second reading. So we ask God to renew us in this as a parish and school. We thank God that we are in a school where we can recognize God as the source of all of that. We pray that our Catholic schools in their mission can continue to be renewed, to bring that love and that truth to our community and to our country and our world. And we thank God that we're able to be part of that. Let's keep singing those silly love songs, but those love songs about the love of our God that never fails, that never ends, that love that wants us to be with him forever.